Picture this. You're setting sail with the world's most advanced ships, packed with enough food to last for years, led by a legendary naval officer. And then, poof, you just disappear. No distress signal, no survivors, literally nothing. Today, we're diving into this explainer of our source material to figure out how an entire expedition of 128 men just vanished into the frozen Arctic. Let's get right into the expedition that never came home.
170 years. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. For well over a century and a half, the fate of Sir John Franklin's expedition was one of history's absolute greatest unsolved maritime puzzles. We're talking about a mystery that completely gripped the world and baffled experts for generations. How on earth does an entire state-of-the-art fleet just vanish into thin air?
Section 1. The Unsinkable Arctic Mission.
So to really wrap our heads around this, we've got to go back to the 1840s. Back then, European powers were totally obsessed with finding the Northwest Passage. That's the fabled sea route connecting the Atlantic and Pacific right through the Arctic. Finding it meant faster trade, military dominance, the whole shebang. So to pull this off, the Royal Navy didn't just send any ships. They chose HMS Erebus and HMS Terror. And these were not your average exploration boats. They were literally built for war. The Navy knew they needed ships that could take a massive, brutal beating from the crushing sea ice. And the technological confidence, or honestly the hubris, of this era is just staggering. They reinforced these thick wooden hulls with heavy iron plating. They literally took steam engines powered by converted locomotive tech and crammed them inside so they wouldn't have to rely on the wind. Add in advanced scientific instruments, massive libraries, internal heating, and 3 years' worth of brand new canned food technology. On paper, this mission was absolutely 100% impossible to fail.
Section 2. Vanished without a trace. But, well, the heartbreaking wait started almost immediately. On May 19, 1845, 129 men left England. By mid-1845, they made a quick stop in Greenland. And guys, that was the absolute last time any Europeans saw them alive. Months turned into a decade. Between 1845 and 1855, Britain launched dozens of desperate search missions into the vast, empty Arctic. But instead of finding Franklin, they just found these terrifyingly sparse clues that only made the mystery deeper.
Section 3. Trail of Tragic Clues.
The whole thing finally started to unravel in 1859 when searchers stumbled upon a small stone cairn on King William Island. Inside was just one single haunting note. It bluntly stated, "Ships trapped in ice for nearly 2 years." Sir John Franklin died in June 1847. Remaining crew abandoned ships in April 1848. Just imagine that scene for a second. Over 100 exhausted, freezing men abandoning their protective, ironclad ships, trying to drag these massive, heavy lifeboats across a brutal, frozen wasteland, hoping to find safety hundreds of kilometers away. And sadly, not a single one of them made it.
Now, modern forensic analysis of the scattered skeletons points to a horrific compounding struggle. Obviously, extreme cold and prolonged starvation were huge factors. But scientists also found severe vitamin deficiency, scurvy, and get this, unusually high levels of lead in their bones. Researchers now suspect that those revolutionary canned foods we talked about, they were poorly soldered with lead. Or maybe it was the ship's internal water systems. But either way, their cutting-edge tech was actually poisoning them slowly.
And it gets even darker. The bones told a truly grim story. Researchers found very distinct cut marks on some of the human remains, which strongly suggest that in their final, most desperate weeks, some of these starving sailors resorted to cannibalism. It's just a shocking, heartbreaking testament to the absolute depths of their desperation. Truly one of the darkest chapters in the history of human exploration.
Section 4. Solving a century-old mystery.
So let's fast forward more than 160 years. For generations, literally nobody knew where those mighty ships actually ended up, until 2014. That's when Canadian researchers made a massive breakthrough and finally found HMS Erebus, just resting quietly on the ocean floor. And then, just 2 years later in 2016, they found HMS Terror, remarkably well preserved, right there beneath the icy waters.
And there's a really profound takeaway here about how we look at history. See, for generations, Inuit communities passed down oral stories about abandoned ships, starving sailors, and strange encounters with these men. And for the longest time, Western searchers largely just brushed those accounts off. But modern underwater archaeology astonishingly proved that this traditional Inuit knowledge was completely, absolutely accurate all along.
The ships were exactly where the oral histories said they'd be.
So, the ultimate lesson we're pulling from our source material today is pretty clear. The Franklin expedition started as this massive symbol of Victorian technological supremacy. But all that advanced tech, it was completely powerless against the unforgiving force of nature. It proves you really can't just brute force your way through the Arctic with iron plating and steam engines. True survival out there depends on deep knowledge, adaptability, and a massive respect for your environment.
Even today, underwater explorers are still studying these wrecks, and every new artifact pieces together a little bit more of the puzzle. But while we finally have the ships, the frozen Arctic still guards its darkest secrets. It leaves us with this haunting question. What exactly went down during those final months of isolation out on the ice after they left the ships behind? It's a chilling mystery that makes you wonder if some secrets are just never meant to be completely solved. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.